Hello everyone and welcome to Real Life Racing episode 9. So for race 1 I started in 5th position because that's where I qualified, which wasn't too bad. I was reasonably happy with that, and it's basically just a case of seeing where I can push on and if I can get any more positions or hopefully not lose any. So we come on to the start and I do get overtaken right at the start, so you just get a better start than me on the outside, and I drop down to 6th place, but I defend my line on the inside going into the first corner, so I do manage to at least keep 6th position. Now the title of this video is Ups and Downs, and the reason that is like that, it will become apparent throughout the course of the video, but it's basically, this round is kind of, it has ups and downs. The ups are very up, I guess you could say, and the downs are very down. You will see what happens, but yeah, it's an interesting round, this one that I don't generally have very often. It's kind of, I've had average rounds where I get reasonable positions that aren't really very special. I've had rounds where I get reasonable positions that have a few special ones mixed in with a couple of wins or something, but I've never really had one that's been quite as up and down as this throughout this season, so this is a new one here. So yeah, basically as we're coming on to the end of the first lap for this first race, I am in 6th position. I've managed to keep my position from people attacking me behind, and obviously, you know, on the first lap there are a lot of people always attacking you from behind, so you do always have to defend your position, and that's what I'm doing, as you can see, going all the way over to the right hand side here down the straight to defend my position going into the first corner, because I don't want somebody to come up the inside of me. So as we come into the second lap, you know, I could see in front of me that there are 3 guys in front all battling with each other. As you saw there on the right hand side, someone was still behind me, but at this point I can start to look ahead a little bit more, because the first lap is over now and there might only be 1 or 2 people behind me, so I can start to look ahead a little bit more. And as you can see, the guy in the white overalls gets overtaken there, which allows me the opportunity to catch up to the guys because they are battling, and obviously when you are battling you are losing speed to everybody else. So I do manage to just get a nicer exit out here. I managed to just get up the inside there on the grass a little bit on the curbs, but it's just enough to allow me to get through, so I head up into 5th place. Now again, there's a guy just to the right of me there. He's been behind me right from the start, and I have to defend from him. Now, as I was saying, you know, when you are battling with someone, you are losing speed in comparison to whether you weren't battling at all. So as you can see, I'm going all the way over to the right hand side here. He's actually behind me, pushing me along. Now the reason for that is that there was a huge headwind going down the main straight. So as we were coming down the main straight, obviously the headwind means that the slipstream of another kart has a much greater effect. Now obviously I was on the inside there because I was defending my line, which meant that he couldn't really, there was no way he was going to get around me, because you can't really overtake around the outside on the first corner, and the only thing that he could do really was just to push into the back of my kart, just to sort of, you know, it helps him as much as it helps me, because he gets in the slipstream. I go a little bit quicker because he is going a little bit quicker, pushing me behind as well. So yeah, basically, you know, I'm using this lap to defend against him, you know, and as I was saying, when you are battling with someone, you are losing speed, you are losing time, and because I'm defending against him, because he's trying to get past me, we are losing speed to the guy in front. Obviously he tries to move up the inside there, it just doesn't come off, and I managed to just get the run out of the corner, but we have both lost time to the guy in front. So the next lap, it calls for a little bit of a different change of pace. So this is something that I've never actually done before. I've always thought about doing it if I'm behind someone, but as you can see, I go over to defend once again at the end of the next lap, and as I look back there, I just saw him do a little bit of a hand movement to sort of say push on, you know, and just go forward. So from that point on, I decided not to defend my line, and as you can see here, the next lap I just stayed over to the left. I don't bother defending my line because he's behind me now, pushing me along. So I don't bother defending my line on any of the corners. I just take my normal racing line, and as you can see, by the time we come on to lap 7, we've both managed to work together to catch up to the guy in front. Now as you can see, you'll see the sort of how much we catch up by the end of the straight here, because that headwind is so strong that the slipstream effect behind my kart is enough to make it so that both of us working together, him pushing me from behind, will give us both a better lap time. He's getting extra speed from my slipstream, and I'm getting extra speed from him pushing me along. So obviously we've spent about 4 laps now working together to catch up to the guy in 4th place, and we've managed to do that. Obviously I'm catching up in the corners as well on this lap. This is lap 8, so there are only 2 more laps to go after this one, and obviously working together has benefited the both of us in that instance. You know, if we'd have kept battling with each other, the best that either of us could have had was a 5th position, the worst probably a 6th because there was no one really behind us. But by working together, we've given both of us a chance to get a 4th position. The worst we're still going to have is a 6th, and you know, we might both get a better position out of it. So as you can see, you know, we're coming on to the second last lap now, and he's again pushing me right at the behind. Now I also have the slipstream effect of the guy in front. He just leaves enough of a gap on the inside, and that allows me to get up on the inside of him. Now the guy who was behind me pushing me along is still right behind me, pushing me along right on the back bumper of my kart, which means he's able to get through as well. At least I think he did. But I make a little bit of an error going around that corner, so I do have to now, you know, defend a little bit. You know, all bets are off at this point. No one's going to be working together anymore. You know, we've done the task that we needed to do, which was catch up to the guy in 4th place. I've managed to get up into 4th place now. There's 2 laps to go, well 1.5 from this point on. You know, I'm not going to be under any illusions of him going to work together with me again at this point, because now a 4th place is on offer. Yes, he's managed to get up into 5th place, which was a better position than what he had, but you know, I realised that he wants that 4th position as well, otherwise he wouldn't have bothered to try and catch up. So now I'm back into defence mode. You know, we were working together and now I'm back into defence mode, and that's what I'm doing here. You know, you'll see me again move over to the right hand side, which is the first time I've done that for a good number of laps. Again, he's still behind me, pushing me along, as you can see there, but at this point, you know, we aren't trying to catch anyone up, so I do have to make sure I get those defensive lines sorted. I have to make sure I'm not going to let him past. And of course, this is now a 3-way battle for 4th position as well. You know, the guy who we have just overtaken is still there trying to get back his position, because he probably feels like he's been mugged a little bit by both of us coming through at the same time. But this was just a really interesting part of the race, because I've never actually been in this position before. You know, there have been moments where I've been behind someone and I've just thought, come on, let's work together to try and catch up to the guys in front. But for whatever reason, it doesn't work out. You know, you can't get the message across to someone or something like that. So I've always thought it's a good idea, but I've never actually been in the position where I've worked with someone actively in a race to do it, until this race. And it was quite interesting to do as well, because you know, it was strange having someone, knowing that someone's right behind you, but you're taking your normal racing lines. You know, you don't have to worry about them trying to overtake, and it's really helpful, and it really helped us both get an extra place there. As you saw, I ended up 4th, he ended up 5th. We both got an extra place out of it, so it certainly worked there. And that was a really interesting race from my point of view, just to experience that working together to catch up to people in front. So now race 2. Obviously I've made up 1 position from my original qualifying spot, so I'm now starting in 4th position. But something just doesn't feel right with me as soon as I start getting onto the straight. Obviously, as you can see, you know, I should be in that little hole there on the left hand side where those guys are. I'm losing speed on the straight away. Now as we go around the first corner, I'm sort of stuck on the outside. I can't really get to the inside because there's people there. And then someone comes and makes a move up the inside there, which hits somebody else, which then hits me, and then I end up right at the back. Now at this point I did actually think I was in last place, but there is someone sort of way back who must have had an even worse start, and I really just can't believe what's happened there. You know, I was kind of getting hung out to dry on the outside. Obviously, you know, there's not a lot I could have done about that. I really needed to be on that inside line. But the reason that was like that was because I lost a lot of speed at the start in the straight, because my kart is pretty poor. Now as you can see here, I'm just losing speed at the start down the straight. You know, look at the gap he makes on me just through that little straight bit there. I'm catching up to him in the corners, but he just pulls away. As soon as it's all about the power of the kart, he just pulls away. So at this point I'm really thinking that there is a bit of a problem with this kart. You know, this is more than just the normal sort of differences in kart performance, this is actually a decent problem. And as you can see there, I'm just losing speed on the straights, and I should have a little shake of the head because it's just so obvious. So yeah, these guys who are in front of me now, I'm in 17th position. Theoretically, I should be getting past these a lot easier than what I'm doing. You can see how much quicker I am in the corners, how much I'm able to gain on them, but I can just never get into that position to make an overtake because they just pull away on any little bit of a straight point. So I'm aware that there's something wrong with the kart. This is more than just the normal differences in karts. There's something actually wrong with it. So I think I'm at the back. I'm not really going to gain anything at this point. I can't really overtake the guys in front of me. I'm just losing too much time on the straights. There's not a lot of hope I've got really in this race. I might as well come into the pits and try and swap the kart. So that's something you're allowed to do. You can come into the pits, swap your kart over for a different one. Hopefully it will have a bit of better performance, and they will sort of make sure you are put back out into the same position that you were, and they'll add your laps back on if you like. So I do come into the pits after the end of lap 2, and then I go back at the start of lap 4. Now the only problem with coming into the pits and getting a new kart is that when you go back out again, you're on cold tyres, you've lost a lot of time just getting up to speed, you're trying to warm up your tyres. For the next maybe 2 laps, you are probably going to be losing time to the guy in front. Now again, it didn't really matter that much to me because I was at the back anyway, but having worked it all out, and as you can see there, the lap time for lap 2 is 3 minutes 40 seconds. Now that is the sort of combined time for laps 2, 3 and 4, which sort of get added on. And that is basically around 12, 13, 14 seconds slower than what I would have done if I hadn't come into the pits at all. So having done sort of the lap time analysis of it, and I've sort of delved a bit deeper into what I should have done, it turns out that I've lost around 18 seconds or so in total by coming into the pits. And if I hadn't have come into the pits and just battled it out, I probably would have been able to get higher up than what I did. Because as you can see, although I've managed to catch up by quite a lot, I haven't managed to actually overtake anybody. I have managed to gain a position because somebody else came off with a problem with his kart, but I didn't actually get to overtake anyone because I just lost so much time. So yeah, that was a bit of a bummer of a race. That was certainly the lowest point. I've never finished that low before, I don't think. Certainly not this season. Maybe last season I might have done, but certainly not this season. And I've never actually started a race this far back. As you can see, this is race 3 now. That's the guy on the left of me is also a bit out of position. He's the one who had to come in right at the end, and that's where I got an extra position from. But he's out of position. He's normally a bit higher up the grid as well. So both of us at the back are sort of out of position, looking to make up places. Now, in this instance, I actually know that the kart that I have is quite quick. And that's obviously a marked improvement from the one that I just had. So I do have hope that I can actually do something in this race, but it's all just going to be determined on see what I can do. So yeah, I managed to get up by 1 place just at the start, and obviously starting all the way back here is very difficult because you're just in with a lot of people. But I do actually manage to get a really good start. I managed to just keep it nice and tight, nice and clean around the inside, and I've already got up to 12th position by the first corner, so I've already overtaken 5 people. And at this point I'm aware that the kart's very good. There's a lot of grip. It's decent in a straight line as well. I'm feeling confident that I can make some places, maybe get up into the top 10 or something like that, especially since I've already made up these places already. So even now we're only halfway around the lap, and I've already got into 10th position just by overtaking people and just taking my chances. Obviously at this point I'm extremely fired up. I've had a terrible race. I've finished in one of the worst positions that I've done all season. The pressure's completely off at this point, really. I don't have to. Obviously, he makes a mistake on the left there, so that's another position I gain. But the pressure's off. I don't have to worry about it anymore because I was starting at the back anyway. Whatever I managed to get in this race is just a bit of a bonus because I've had such a terrible race in the previous one. I'm all fired up. All I want to do is just overtake people. And honestly, I can't remember a lot about this race. Obviously, I can now that I've watched it back. But at the time, I just wasn't really thinking that much about it. I was just kind of driving. I was sort of in the zone, if you like. I was just being very aggressive, more aggressive than I would normally be, I guess you could say. Just really fired up, really just wanting to make positions as much as I could. And that's what I managed to do, but I couldn't actually remember all that much about it by the end of the race. So yeah, as you saw there, I just gave the guy in front of me a little bit of a bump, which allowed me to get through as well. That allowed me to then make up another position. And, I'm already up into 8th place as we're coming on to the 3rd lap. And considering I started in 17th position, that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that already. And we've still got 8 laps to go for me to see sort of where I can make up more places. Obviously, the higher up you get of the grid, the harder it is to make places, because the people who you come up against are just inherently a lot quicker. So the guys at the front are very quick all of their own accord, and they're a lot quicker than the guys who I've already overtaken, so it's a lot more difficult to make up places. But as I was saying, I wasn't really thinking about any of that sort of thing during this race. All I was focused on was seeing someone in front of me and thinking, how am I going to overtake you? That's all that it was all about. I wasn't thinking about anything more in depth than that, really. So at this point, I do a nice little move where I make sure he gets a bit of a compromised entry into the corner. I judge it just right so I don't hit his back bumper, and I managed to just get up on the inside there, and that's another place gained. And that was, I really like that move. That's one of the moves that I do quite a lot. But it does take a decent amount of judgment to do. But then I managed to get another place just quite easily here. I took my normal racing line, and he makes a little mistake in front of me, goes a bit wide, and I managed to get through there. So I'm already up into 6th place by the end of the 3rd lap. So that's 11 positions made up in 3 laps in what is a very difficult field as well. This isn't just like a random race where you can make up a lot of places easily. These are some really difficult guys to pass, and really quick guys. So this has already been a great race. I'm already at this point happy with my performance. But again, at this point in the race, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm not even thinking that, I'm in 6th place. This is a really good position. I'll just see if I can stay here. From what I can remember, it was just a case of, there's someone in front of me, let's overtake him. That's all I had. And as you can see, I am, because there's sort of guys are just battling in front of me, and I'm just sort of being on my own for most of the race. I'm making these overtakes really quickly, not getting caught up in battles with people. I'm able to just push on and push on and push on. And as you can see here, I've already caught up to the guys in 4th and 5th. And they are obviously battling with each other, and I think the guy in 4th place is having a bit of a nightmare with his kart, because as you'll see on this straight, the guy in front of us just flies straight past him. As you can see here, I just get a little bit of a slipstream effect from him, and I also managed to get past as well, not quite as easily, but I also make up a lot of time around this corner, and I go for an overtake into the inside here. It just to say comes off, I just managed to get it done. And again, that's what I was talking about, how I wasn't really thinking about it. I was just seeing someone in front of me and just going for an overtake. That's all I was doing. And that's really been sort of helping me at this point, because it's not allowed me to get caught up behind people and lose a lot of time. So I'm already into 4th place, and there's 2 guys in front of me, obviously 2nd and 3rd position. They are battling with each other as well. So I've got another chance to catch up. Again, I wasn't really thinking this in depth about it during the race. I was just thinking, there's guys in front of me, let's try and overtake them. And as you'll see in terms of the lap times that I get in the next few laps, I do get some really, really quick lap times. I certainly get my best lap time of the day, and I'm just on fire. I'm just going crazy at this point, just focusing on driving the kart, going as quickly as I possibly can, and catching up to the guys in front. Now, obviously, at this point, you are up to the top end. I'm already in the position that I finished the last race, but it's all swings and roundabouts. These guys are battling with each other. I'm really fired up, coming really quickly from behind, and obviously it's a lot harder to catch up to people at this point of the race, because you're up in the sort of the 2nd and 3rd place position. They're up there for a reason, because they're driving very quickly. It's not just as if they're at the back and you can catch up to them very easily. But even having said that, throughout the course of this lap, I am managing to catch up quite well. And as you'll see, right when we get to right at the end of the lap, I'm right on their back bumper. You know, I'm making up time all over the place. And at the time, it was just I wasn't thinking about it. It was just natural. It's like it should have been happening. So I'm right on their back bumpers again. I'm getting into the slipstream here, and I just get into the slipstream just enough and managed to get on the inside here to go up into third place. Now, I did ask him about that right when the race was finished, and he said he just didn't realise that I was there, because he said he looked behind the lap before and nobody was there, you know, within a good couple of seconds. So obviously I've done that 106.5, a very good lap time, and I've managed to catch up to them within one lap. And I just took him by surprise, and that's what I've been doing as I've been going up this whole pack, taking people by surprise, taking my chances when I get them, just focusing on overtaking at every single opportunity. And that's what I'm doing now up into second place. Now, interestingly enough, this is the guy from the first race who was pushing me in the back, who I was working together with to catch up to the guy in fourth from the first race. So, you know, it's come full circle, really. I was working with him in the first race. I had a nightmare second race, and now I'm back up again with him, trying to overtake again. And considering where I started this race, that's pretty crazy. So at this point, it's very, you know, he's a very, very good racer. It's very difficult. It's going to be very difficult to get past him. But I get a really, really good slingshot coming here. He obviously goes to defend, but I managed to just hang it out around the outside. Now that is not usual. And normally, if I was actually thinking about it, and I was actually, you know, not just driving for the sake of driving and trying to overtake everywhere, I probably wouldn't have tried that. I would have just stuck behind him on the inside. But I had enough of an overspeed just to be able to hang it out around the outside. And I wasn't really thinking about it, I just did it. And that's the kind of overspeed that you need. You definitely need to be at least half a kart's length, in front of someone going into that first corner if you are going to go around them around the outside, because it's very difficult to do. So that's it, up into second position. And I couldn't believe it. You know, that I thought at this point I made a vital error, unfortunately. I thought that was job done. Now, I thought that this was it. You know, the first place guy is gone. You know, I'm never going to catch up to him. There's only a couple of laps to go. But with the speed that I've caught up to these guys, I'm done. You know, I don't even need to defend going into the first corner. And that was absolutely stupid of me to do so. Because as you can see here, the slipstream was just enough to allow him to get on the inside of me going into the first corner. And that was criminal of me to do that. I couldn't believe it. I didn't realize that the slipstream effect was that strong, and I should have done. You know, I've used it myself. I should have known, but I just didn't expect him to come back at me like that. You know, it was stupid. That's all it was. It was stupid not to just look behind and defend into the first corner, because if I had defended into the first corner, he wouldn't have got past me, and I probably would have been able to use the next lap to gain a bit more of a gap so that I didn't need to defend for the straight after that. But I didn't. I didn't bother defending. I thought it was job done. I thought that with the speed that I caught up to these guys, I would then just be able to drive away, and he wouldn't have the speed in the kart to get up alongside me. And as you can see here, I do, you know, I'm attacking him again, but he defends, which is what I should have done. And I don't have the overspeed this time to manage to get around the outside, and that's obviously the difference between this lap and the 8th lap. You know, you need to be a bit further ahead if you are going to effect a pass around the outside, and I just couldn't do it. We do have a good battle for the rest of this lap, and obviously for the rest of the race, obviously ever since I actually ended up behind him at that point. But it was absolutely criminal of me not to defend going into that first corner once I got up into second place, and I just can't believe I didn't do it. And that's really put a bit of a dampener on what otherwise was an amazing race. You know, if I had have defended, if I'd managed to keep that second position, then this would undoubtedly have been the best race that I've ever done in my life, you know, without a shadow of a doubt. But making that mistake has just taken the edge off it a little bit. But I do want you guys to tell me if you think this is the best race I've ever done. It's certainly up there, it certainly is, but I can't just ignore the fact that I made that mistake and I've finished in third position, as you can see here, instead of finishing in what really should have been a second position. So overall, a fantastic race. I hope you enjoyed that one, because that was one of the best races I've ever done, without a shadow of a doubt. Just that little mistake at the end that caused me to be in third position instead of second, which I hate myself for, really. But yeah, let me know, you guys let me know down below whether you think that's the best race that you've ever seen from me, or is there one that was better because of that mistake at the end. So we come on to the final now. I've obviously had a really good race there, but the point system means that losing the points that I did in the second race has meant that I'm starting in 9th position for the final. But again, I'm fired up from the third race. I've thought, oh, I've had a great race there. I should be able to see, I should be able to make up positions and see what I can do. But the kart isn't that great in this one. So I try my best, but in the end, I don't really have much of a chance. I make up positions, and then I lose positions again, as you'll see. Again, it's very up and down. This has been the ultimate in the up and down week, if you like. The title sums it up perfectly, really. From the absolute lows of the second race to the very, very high highs of the third race, then this is kind of a bit of a low as well, and then the first race was a bit of a high. So it's been very up and down, and that's how it goes sometimes, I guess. Just one of those things. So yeah, I'll talk about this race. I do manage to get a bit of an opportunistic move going there. As you saw, I made sure to get up on the inside there when I knew that he might have got hung out to dry a little bit. But I've got up into 8th place from my 9th place starting position. But I'm not really able to make that much of an impression. There are guys in front of me who are battling, and I do catch up to them in the corners because of that. But as you'll see, I just don't really have the pace in the kart to kind of keep a strong position going for any decent length of time. So yeah, I'm catching up in the corners just because people are battling. It's not really, as you can see, sort of just further in the distance, first, second and third places are certainly, they're gone, so I'm not really going to be able to get a trophy in this one. And the point system, I'm aware that at this point, I worked it out before I even started the race, I would have had to actually win this race for the points that I gained throughout the whole round to be better than the worst that I've ever done. So I knew that this was going to be the worst round for me in terms of points, unless I was to win this race, which was very unlikely. At that point, it all got a bit messy on that last corner as well. Someone hit into me behind, and then I hit into someone else. But as you can see there, 2 people just come flying straight by me into the first corner. So I got up into 6th place momentarily, and then straight back down into 8th, and that was pretty much the problem that I had with the kart. It just didn't really have the speed in it. And that's how it goes. My relatively low starting position meant that even with if I had a poor kart but I was starting a bit higher up, I might have had a bit more of a chance to do something, or at least defend a bit more and keep a higher position. But when you're starting in the mid pack and you don't have that great of a kart, you don't have much of a chance. And that was all caused by the second race. I just getting such a small amount of points because I finished so low down the order. So there's been plenty to think about from this round, plenty to learn. Certainly if I ever get up into second place again in that sort of situation, or ever make any position throughout the course of this championship, I'm never ever going to not look behind me and not defend going into the first corner again. I'm certainly never going to do that. I mean, I normally wouldn't, but as I said, I wasn't thinking during that race that much, so I guess it hindered me right at the end there just as much as it had helped me throughout the rest of the race. So yeah, there's plenty to think about. Next time I have a bad kart, I'll probably just stick it out instead of coming into the pits, because as I said, I ended up losing more time by coming into the pits than I would have done if I just stuck it out. Even if I just made up 1 or 2 positions from the position that I was in the second race before I came into the pits, that still would have been better than what I achieved by actually coming into the pits. So it was at least worth it to learn that for next time, I guess you could say. So yeah, very up and down this round. This is kind of compounded just right at the end by making a little mistake as I defend into that corner, letting him past me, and 10th is where I finished this race. There was nobody really behind me for quite a while. and then these guys in front sort of drive away, and I don't really have the pace to keep up with them, and that's just where I end up. 10th, I was kind of in a lonely 10th by the end of it, and as you'll see, the gaps behind and the gaps in front were just huge, so it was a bit of a boring rest of this race, to be honest, which is why I've completely cut it out. 58 points is what I managed for this round. That is the lowest that I've actually managed for this whole season. Funnily enough, as you'll see at the sort of the roundup at the end, this time last season I also got my lowest score then as well. It's strange how those things have worked out. Throughout the course of this season, I seem to have got my highest score when I got my highest score last season. Now I've got my lowest score when I got my lowest score last season. Now I am hoping that this 58 points will be the lowest that I ever get, but it might not be. I might have an even worse round than this, but we never know. We'll just try and reset and push on and see if we can do a better round next time. So yeah, as you can see here, those are where the points, and that 17th position really did hurt me in terms of the points and the position that I had for the final as well. And the 58 points, as you can see, is the lowest that I've had this season. In 2013, 33 was the lowest that I had out of that season, and that was also set in this round as well. But I'm still way ahead of what I was at this time last season. So let me know down below if you thought that race 3 was the best that you've seen in this series, or did that mistake ruin it, and let me know what you think of the video in general. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.